warm welcome to you all to the industry program of the MAMI Mumbai Film Festival. We are here with the support of our community partner, Soho House Mumbai. I'm Sonia from the year-round program of the festival. Well, film festivals are a place where many films see the light of day. They are nurturing spaces. And we've been very fortunate to have some excellent filmmakers, show their films over the years at MAMI. But the question is, and that's what we are here to talk about today, is after a festival run, has festival hit, what next? Many filmmakers grapple with that question, and many don't find answers, a few do. Release and distribution. Sarita Patil, with over 30 years experience in film, television and digital platforms. Sarita has had leadership roles in some of India's largest production houses. She's partner at Matchbox Shots, whose projects include IC814, Scoop, Monica, Oh My Darling, and the critically acclaimed Three of Us. Bauddhayan Mukherji, filmmaker, producer with a string of accolades to his name. His features include The Violin Player, The Bookkeeper's Wife. Bauddhayan has also produced two critically acclaimed indies, Manik, Babu, Megh, and Whispers of Fire and Water. With over 20 years experience. He has been an independent distributor of films such as Chintu Ka Birthday, Eeb Aleu, and the recent Kasurti. And he has distributed documentaries like Superman of Malegaon, Leaving Home, The Life and Music of Indian Ocean, and Katya Baz. We have Rana Daggubati, actor, producer. We are honored to have him as a board member of MAMI. His company Spirit Media works with leading studios and platforms to present some path-breaking works to Indian audiences. Spirit Media is the Indian distributor, and steering the conversation is Mayank Shekhar, film critic, writer and podcaster. Over to you all.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special session where we're discussing something as old as the history of films itself, which is how to make good movies work. That's really what we're talking about. While we call it multiple things, and the topic here, of course, is changing lanes, festival hits to box office. We have a stellar panel here in terms of producers. But even when we get down to talking about what's a festival hit, I think it might be pertinent to ask a very simple question, even more elemental. What, according to you, is a festival film?
Okay, what according to me is a festival film, anything that doesn't reach out to the extreme mainstream. When I say extreme mainstream, it's things that, I don't know if I'm using the right grammar, but it's things that will be candy floss, things that will be extreme in terms of emotion beyond...
Basically anything that's not Bahubali.
Not really, but just at an idea of storytelling. Why have you told this story? There's a certain slice of life, there's a certain culture that you're very deeply speaking about, and at the same time you want that film to raise discussion, raise awareness. I think that's to me is a festival film. But if it's a regular commercial film that's made for a box office, it's purely to create numbers, create excitement, and then move on.
Right. I mean, that particular film that is made for the box office, in Bollywood at least, is called the festival film too, except that that will be Bhul Bhulaiya 17 and Singham 15 that'll be coming out on a festival, which is Diwali. but this is obviously a very different kind of festival movie. So, Sarita, what do you think of a film when you say it's a festival movie?
I think the voice is unique. They're usually critically acclaimed. The narratives are also unique. You try and push your boundaries. You're trying to tell stories which you're not watching on big screen entertainment with popcorn, and it's just that you push the envelope more than what regular people can do. That's where I think the festival films lie.
You're basically testing the audience in terms of will they go as far with consumption of a certain kind of storytelling in terms of experiments.
I think within we have to be clear. We have to call it a film festival film or something in that order.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll pick Diwali and Christmas and start.
No, I was kidding, guys. Everybody knows that's not what you're talking about. Bauddhayan?
So I absolutely believe in festival films, yet I would say that I don't believe in festival films because a good film is a good film is a good film. As simple as that. So, tongue in cheek, if I feel that a director and a producer believe that my film has hope in hell in box office, it will be a festival film. So that's how I would term festival film as.
By the end of the session, no one will understand what a festival means anymore.
Let alone a festival hit.
Yeah.
Ranjan?
I'll just add to whatever those guys have said. Just a little bit more is where I feel, the filmmaker has slightly pushed the boundary in the sense, say, for example, broken the form or narrative. And where I think they feel that, probably it could reach out to the fellow filmmakers and probably understood a bit slightly more, though we still don't know, does it happen that way? But I think, that these two things, if you add to whatever everybody said, that probably for me is a festival film.
I think common definition is the fact that you are pushing boundaries, that you're not within the same boxed situation of what a film should be or what the market expects the film to be. And when you actually made that, you sit with that film for months on end, you play it at festivals, people love it, but there is no way to distribute it. And this is a lament as old as time itself. What I want more interested in, so far as this conversation is concerned, is to go beyond the lament and really make it about success stories, because there's more to learn there than from failures in this particular scenario. And I'm going to start with you, Bauddhayan, because you have a personal success story of a film that you took for 2 years across film festivals, then released it in theaters, and is still playing at a theater near someone in Calcutta after about 100 plus days. Take us through that particular case study of how you did that and what did you do which was different from what others do.
Okay.
Tell us about the film first.
Yeah, so I'll just put everything in perspective. This film is called Manik Babu Megh. For anyone who don't understand Bengali here, the English name is The Cloud and the Man. So it's a love story between a piece of cloud and a man.
Talk about pushing boundaries, guys.
Yeah, so that's what we did, and my wife Mona is here, who is also my co-producer. Okay, so one thing what we always keep telling ourselves is that if we do not produce this film, will this film get produced ever in this country? If the answer is no, then we will definitely produce it. So that's the reason why I honestly thought that if we don't produce this film will not get produced in this country. No producer in his sanity will produce a love story between a man and a piece of cloud. But it's nice to be foolish at times. So we shot this film in 2019 in Kolkata. Then obviously we know what happened. COVID struck and we went underground. We came out with the film at Black Night Stalin, where we world premiered. A week later, Asia premiered at IFE India Panorama at Goa. And ever since, over the next 2 years, we traveled all over the world, including Santa Barbara, Edinburgh, Golden Horse, Taipei, Hong Kong, and we just traveled. So at some point in time, we sat down, and when we saw the reaction of people in different theaters across the world, and people were generally lapping it up, we told ourselves that I think people will like it in India. So we traveled in India as well. So we won the best Asian film at NetPack at Kolkata, which was 22 May. Post that, suddenly, when our festival run ended, we were out of sight, out of mind. And that's exactly what happens with a film like this. Before that, people were writing a lot about us, but then we vanished into thin air. So the first thing that we did was we figured out, okay, we need to have a release date. So we arrived at a release date, and that's where I think it's nice to also go against the general wisdom. Everyone said, do not release your film in the monsoons. Do not do that. And Mona and I said, that's precisely what we'll do. It's a story about a cloud and a love story about a man in a cloud. It has to be released in the monsoons. So we chose 12th of July amidst a downpour in Kolkata as our release date. Everyone said, tum log gadhe ho yaar. I said, fair enough. So we released the film, and the intention was that once people come out of the theaters, would they look for that piece of cloud in the sky? And that's exactly what people did. People started clicking pictures. People started writing poetry about the clouds. And so cloud suddenly became trending in Kolkata social media because people were looking for clouds. So we said, okay, we have a release date. And then how do you revive a film? A film which is not in public memory. No one knows about us. So it's a black and white film, no stars, art house, slow. So why I say no stars? Because when we sat down and started thinking of tagging our actors, we realized that no one has social media accounts. Who do you tag? Who do you tag? One of them is no more, who passed away just after dubbing. So how on earth would a film which has absolutely no stars would even see the light of the day? So we said, okay, we got Anirban Bhattacharya. For anyone who is aware of Anirban Bhattacharya, he's the guy who played Rani Mukherji's husband in Lady Chatterjee and Norway versus Norway. So Anirban is a very big name in Kolkata. We got him to present the film. So it became Anirban Bhattacharya presents Manik, Babu, Megh. And he's also a singer. So the director Abhinandan wrote a song with Shubhajit Mukherjee, who's the music director. Shubhajit composed a song, and I directed a music video, which the song we decided to keep in the film now, on the end credits. So we kind of did all of that, and that song and Anirban's presence revived the film. Suddenly, people in Bengal were waking up to a film which Anirban is presenting, not because of our film, because Anirban is presenting. So I think getting a presenter works in a market like Kolkata. Then PVR Inox came on board. So PVR Inox has a model where you pay them a token amount of money, and they would come in as their distribution and exhibition partner. For Kolkata, I think it's also important for all our panelists to know, since you talk in crores, in Kolkata we talk in thousands. That's how small the market is. So the amount PVR Inox would charge me is also into thousands. So, sorry.
Like literally in thousands,
lakhs,
you mean?
Lakhs.
Lakhs, thank God. What are we watching? YouTube videos?
So PVR Inox came on board, and they decided to be the distribution and exhibition partner. We released on the 12th of July, and today is the 104th day in theatres in Kolkata. There's a book that has been commissioned on the phenomenon of Manik Babu Megh, which someone is writing, I know that for sure. So there's a book, and all of this can happen only in Kolkata. That much I can tell you. Would a book be written somewhere else? I don't know, honestly. Well, so I think I will stop here. Let me come back with other things later.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that would not happen in Bombay, for instance, is if it's raining, you don't point your phone to the cloud. You know, the phone will freaking break with the speed of that rain. But, you know, there's a very interesting thing that you mentioned, Bauddhayan, is the fact that you used a very, very popular star of Bengali cinema to headline that as a presenter, which obviously creates some element of interest among mainstream, non-festival audiences, as it were, which is precisely what you did, Rana, if I may put it that way, that you pick up a film which is in Malayalam, set in Mumbai. Of course, it's done the rounds, and you know, it was first film in India, from India to go to Cannes in 30 years. So all of us know about this, but that may not be the case with a lot of audiences who do not care so much for Cannes, for instance. Was that a model that you applied to yourself? Like, listen, you know me because I do these massive films. I am a well-known movie star. I put my name to, I'm going to say, all we imagine as light. I'll just say Aviyal, because that's a perfect name for a Malayalam film. All we imagine as light. Is that what you did? Was that the intention behind you picking up that film from Cannes?
So, okay, let me quickly track back so you know where I actually started my career. I started with producing a film called Belly Full of Dreams. It was called Bommalata. It was made that in 2004. The film won 2 national awards, but didn't get a theatrical release. We released in Prasad's in Hyderabad. It ran for half a day, and then they didn't know what to do because no one was coming. So, I mean, and then I became an actor. I continued my career in different types of movies. But what I understood very clearly was we don't have everything can't go the same way. You can't have a mega film release and an art house film or anything alternative release the same format, right? It's, you need to find a different route for it. like globally, they have many more festivals like MAMI, where it can travel across for a while. But India is so big that you need to travel across India for a while before you actually reach people, right? None of us speak the same language. We are not one filming industry. We are 11 filming industries, all having different backgrounds. Nobody knows one another either. It started with a film called Care of Kancharpalam, which was the first film that I distributed and presented. Again, made very independently in a small town called Kancharpalam in near Vizag. And the only way I got to put that film out is I did about 100 screenings of that film across. Just hired a preview theater, just kept it going, and did small shows, big shows. Tried to get as much of the...
Like these were paid previews or were...
No, free
just
previews.
free. Anyone
Just
can come
free.
and watch and spread the word.
See, because nobody will know about this film otherwise. Because it's not a large poster that I can put somewhere in the middle of the city where everyone can stop and look at it. It's not extreme high quality or gloss where quickly you get attracted to stuff like that. Or you can't have a promo that has extreme pace and engaging or anything in the commercial world. And I was very sure I didn't want to put it in any parts where regular premiere stuff happened. So I think it started with that, and it was easier for me because it was Telugu as a language. It was one industry. At that point, it was only one state. Now it's two states.
Right.
But it's still easier because the geography of where you have to travel is smaller. And the costs of being in a cinema in South India across states is much, much cheaper than what it is in Bombay to be in a cinema. I'd say it's probably 10% of the cost of landing up in Bombay. So I think that first made sense for us that, okay, there's no extreme P&A to do this. There was some streaming support, but again, came much, much later. To me, it was, okay, how do I find the audience first? Who are the audience for this film? It's not the everyday film goer that is going to be excited about this. So I think defining that for each film becomes very important. So when you make a film, the why becomes very clear. Unless it has to be the filmmaker or the film in some ways talking to you and telling you that. So once you identify that audience, you make sure that audience hears it first. So we've done 6 films like that so far after Kancharpalam, and everything has been very successful. So it's actually something that works.
Like you're literally running a parallel movie industry in Telugu because the Telugu land is all about scale, isn't it? And that you can actually have 6 releases.
You say that because you only saw the 3 Telugu movies that came here. No? You never saw the other stuff. So no, it's see, that's how ignorant we are about the other state or the other languages. Like he was talking about Calcutta and Bengal. Now I know very little about that place, and I'm pretty shameful. Like I don't know what the last big hit was. I don't know who the top filmmakers are, and vice versa. If I ask you something in Tamil or Malayalam, you won't know it either. So I think in the country first, there is that education that's needed where we need to look at ourselves as one place. Because the film you probably make has an audience somewhere else and you have to go look for them. Like take for example, All We Imagine Is Light that we released. It had released in France a couple of weeks ago. It's done over some 200,000 admissions. It's collected over €1 million. Now, I don't know how do I do that in India? So now it was easy for us because it was still Malayalam as a film. It's shot in Hindi and Malayalam. It's a story of Malayali nurses in Bombay. Malayalam as an industry still has that type of storytelling in its mainstream. It's not alternative for them. It is mainstream. So I think that slice of life kind of really helped us. I don't know if it was a Hindi all film. I don't know what I would have done, or even if I would have been a part of that. So I think it's first let's find where the core audience for this film are. What is the best way that you can release it? Like in India, we kept doing single state releases for a week, 1 week only. So there's a limited time. There is a small group that has watched it. It's gone away from the cinemas, and it will come
Which
back.
you did in Kerala, right?
I did it in Kerala, I did it in Karnataka, and I'm doing it in Andhra now.
Right.
So before the main release actually hits, there is at least a pocket of people that know what this film is about. And there's enough word of mouth that goes there. And word of mouth is the only way that it's actually possible. See, one is, at MAMI, I can speak this, but now always, every time I'm at a MAMI session, there's so many people. And I keep wondering, where are these guys when these movies are releasing? So people call me for passes, they'll be this, that. I was like, why don't they call me during the theater when this film releases? So there is an audience, but we just don't know how to reach out to them in the perfect form. I think as time goes, now in Telugu at least, I can tell you that, okay, now we have some strategy of releasing these films. But across the country, I think when more and more filmmakers come together, I think it'll happen pretty soon.
Right. At least you look for a solution. And in that sense, I mean, I'll take an example of a film like Kennedy, for instance. Ranjan, you were involved with the production of Kennedy. Ranjan, what's up?
So see, the easy answer, since it's a studio film, the studio is looking for a release date or a release strategy. That's the official answer. But yeah, I mean, I think we...
You have a studio on the film?
So yeah, but yeah, we do feel like we lost the momentum sometime, because ideally it should have come out last December, but then few things happened and the studio had a slate, so we were pushed a bit behind, and then our festival run kept on. We went to some 32 festivals. So, but yeah, it should come out. We are working on that.
I'm going to come to you, Sarita, and you're actually the other side of the argument here, because you've had a very long stint with being part of a studio. You began a studio of your own thereafter. You're an independent producer now. How does it work from the other end? There is a film that is a talking point in 2023. There is a momentum for it. The director is very well known. I mean, push it, release it. What happens? What are the discussions that you have that becomes almost an impediment for a festival hit to become a box office hit?
So there's a disclaimer here. Most people may not like me with the discussion I'm going to have right now, because I tend to, look at it slightly, taking a step back.
You're being the badass. It's fine.
Yeah. So I think for a filmmaker, it's very important that you know what film you're making, for who you're making, and at what budget you're making. All these things come into play when you're writing the script. That, I believe, is very important. Because I have a list of films that are made under 2 crores. I just took some numbers down. Liars Dies was at 65 lakhs, Fire in the Mountains, 1 crore 70 lakhs, Killa at 90 lakhs, Shahid at 35 lakhs. So these films were made under 2 crores. None of
Shahid
them
was
made
35 lakh.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And none of them made money. So when I'm saying is, I'm not here to make money, but I'm not here to lose money, because I have to be encouraged to keep on putting that money for other films which I want to make passionately. 3 of Us was one such example. All India Rank was one such example, where you sit back and say that, listen, we are passionate about making films, but does it make sense ultimately? So it's very important that when filmmakers start writing the script, you start looking at it slightly from the producer's angle.
Yeah, you can't go lower than 35 lakh. No,
but I'm saying today, films are being made at 7 crores.
Right.
Films are being made at 7 crores, above 5 crores. I'm saying is, try and keep it below that, below 5 crores, just to ensure that there is, because a definition of a successful film comes very differently to me than a success for, a passionate filmmaker. For him, going to festivals is success. For me, I should not be losing money is my success. So that's very critical to me. So from the studio's point of view, you're always evaluating a script and saying, hey, at this point of time, I'm spending so much money, which is P&A plus cost of production, and how much am I going to get on the other side? And there are challenges.
Do you think at some level the movie industry itself disincentivizes the producer to take big risks? Because what's in it for them? There is a person who's made the story, really wants to tell that story. The film is amazing. Everyone's sitting crying in the hall, thinking about the protagonist and everything else that, the writer went through, writing it, experiencing it, etc., etc. The movie comes out, the director is a dude, nobody knows the producer. Like, is there a disincentive to be a brave producer in this case? Because what's in it for them?
Absolutely. Like a basic question is, I don't know how many people in the room can name the producer of Mr. Ray's films.
Yeah.
And he passed away.
It's a lovely book that the producer of Shatranj at Kikiladi has written, which I think someone should check out.
Exactly.
It's a fabulous book, yeah.
For sure is there. The other thing, what you just said, I don't think there's an industry. It's a common word used in media and everything, but I think, like how Rana said, with every film of mine, how we have distributed, there's nothing called as industry. You fight your own battles, you make a film, you find the audience, you reach out to them. Be it like when we distributed Masan or Katiyabaz or all of them. They have been very different stories. every film has a different journey, and it changes because the landscape is changing every 2 years. When Vasan came, there was no OTT that year. Now there is an OTT, so you look for an alternative. Even in OTT, there are, I think, what I call them is there are classes, right? There's some Netflix, Amazon, this, that, and there's Mubi who will always play your film. And then again, like Sarita said, the movies have different budgets. So now we were trying to distribute a film last year. It's called Jaggi. The film has been made in 5 lakhs. And the director is a DOP himself, and it's an outstanding film, but we couldn't get past the censors. So the only option left with us was to put it on Mubi and hope that, people take it from there. But there are some films like, while we were doing Katya Abaz, Katya was a very expensive documentary which was made. But they also had funds to release, so we actually managed to put it out in 105 theatres, including all the mainstream theatres.
Yeah, for a documentary film, there's a fabulous
Outstanding.
number.
So, and we had a proper marketing campaign. We made a music video for a documentary. So, yeah, so depending upon like every film, you find a marketing hook, like again, because some friends were involved, how Lunchbox was. When it premiered at Cannes, and then there only they got a worldwide deal. And then when they came back for the India release, I think it was the Sajan song, Dekha Hai Pehli Baar, which they used in the music video. And then it suddenly reached out to a lot of people. So, yeah, there's no fixed thing. It keeps changing because, the whole thing is evolving. The medium is evolving. Exhibition itself is changing. While we were distributing films at PVR, I remember we released all of Rajat Kapoor's films. Raghu Romeo, Bheja Friend, we would plan and we would reach out to the filmmakers, tell them, look, this year it looks like this period might be a bit easy, so why don't you come? And Bheja Friend, I remember clearly they chose the release date because India was in the Cricket World Cup was going on 2007, and India got out very early in 2 weeks. Suddenly there was no film for 4 weeks. So Bheja Fry ran, and I think if I'm not wrong, it made over 40 crores.
Yeah.
Which probably I think is still the most independent profitable film. But today probably, I don't see it's possible for that kind of a film to probably release in theatres now. But at the same time, I know that somebody in 6 months will come, one guy will be somebody mad, he'll find a way and put it out.
Ranjan, which are the films that you produced?
Kennedy, Little Thomas, Almost Pyar. Then all of Phantom films, I was the co-producer. Masan, yeah.
And
Queen,
the fact that you all don't know Ranjan, I think that it proves my point. I think should give him a round of applause, guys. He's worked on films that we've all watched, but we've never incentivized the producer enough. You mentioned Lunchbox, and I'm going to come to that because one of the reasons why Lunchbox also got, some element of recognition is because, it got firstly an international distributor. It was in the running for Oscars entry, which could be also one of the things, Rana, I'm going to bring you here. People talk about, it is India's Oscars entry. That becomes a talking point. We need to create more talking points, you think? I mean, in the case of Avial, I'm going to call it Avial now. In the case of Avial, the fact that it was not India's Oscars entry, but at least it became a talking point as a result of it. Do you think we need more of these talking points, perhaps?
See, anything that's popular in public domain, if you're part of, then there's some recognition to it, whether it's Cannes, whether it's the Oscars. I'm saying, why go till there? Oscar is something that's built 100 years ago for some other country. If you're able to 10 more MAMIs or similar type events in India, I think that will solve half the problem. Because first, at least, you'll have a way to reach this country. See, if you're trying to release a film in India, you have to find a way to get each audience talking. And each of the states have a very different way that they receive movies. I think that's actually the first solution for things. I was always very fortunate that I got to be at MAMI, got to be at Goa and all of the festivals actually MAMI is probably the only mainstream festival in that sense where you get to watch a lot of cinema. I'm saying, if not all we imagine is light, if not this film, we only know about Cannes because of the clothes that people wear and walk around. There's very little that's even spoken about who goes and who comes back. So I think that's the truth, right? Red carpet, this one is wearing these clothes, but there'll be 20 filmmakers that have gone with their films standing at the Cannes, but that's never even spoken about. So I think it's a combination of media, combination of events, festivals, combination of groups of filmmakers across industries to start talking. See, the commercial world literally started maybe 5 or 6 years ago when the first Bahubali came out, that, oh, there's could be a Telugu film that can be watched in Hindi, and that's a normal thing. And today, that's happening more and more often. So it took the commercial world at least 100 years to do that. So I'm thinking it's going to take some time for the art and festival world to do it. It's not easy. India is not an easy country. It is hard. It's a few passionate people like these that we have on the panel who love that cinema and will stand for it. And like Sarita very rightly said, it needs to make commercial sense in the end, so there will be more cinema like this being made.
Right. I mean,
But I want to just, I want to add one of your things from an interview which you said, which I still quote to people. Like this whole, like you said, Bahubali started, but I think you had said that, no, before this, like Satya, everybody watched in Hyderabad and Chennai. So what is this term about pan-India film coming now?
These are your, like Chota Chetan was a film, I'm sure all of you all watched it. It's a Malayalam film that released across India, every single one who's at least my
3D film, right?
The 3D, the first 3D film. That, so content always cuts across.
Correct.
It's just how much effort do you put in to make sure it
I mean, I
reaches.
think a good example of content cutting across would obviously be how Indians in general, but across the world, have taken to K-dramas, for instance. And they watch Indonesian dramas, and I mean hardcore mainstream now. Do you think, while the binary here is a festival hit and a box office, there is a new thing called the OTT, and it's been around for almost 8 years now as a thriving industry. Do you think that at least has somehow or somewhat taken, like sort of given a platform to something that may not be cinema, but it needn't be something that doesn't get a release at all, which has been a problem with distribution of festival films anyway?
So, like, I know a little bit about what happens in Korea and how they look at their film or their music industry. Like, maybe a decade ago, they kind of very clearly understood culture is something you can export, whether it's through cinema, whether it's through music, and they make extreme efforts to reach the entire globe. So I think it's a okay, like K-dramas and K-pop, the music, they were first funded by government grants.
Yes, absolutely.
So now.
Yeah.
And today it's K-pop, it's BTS, all of that stuff, right? But it started with a government grant.
Yeah.
So I think somewhere the country also has, countries that are more established, that are more developed in that economic sense, have an easier way of it. I think here we have a issue of poverty, other things to deal with in a much larger scale. But I think that's also a large merit if there is some government type of resource or grant that can see culture being exported forward.
Satya, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say something on the OTT front. When OTT came, 5-6 years ago, at the advent of OTT, we were all very excited because we could tell stories which we couldn't tell on box office, right? There were stories which had to tick those boxes like बड़ा actor है क्या नहीं, कितना budget है, ये resonate होगा, बड़ा director है क्या नहीं. And OTT somehow gave us this breath of fresh air where we could tell stories which we couldn't go to box office and tell because of the numbers attached or whatever. Sadly, for the last 1 year, the whole thing has changed. The whole thing has changed. I had to take Three of Us. Three of Us is a film which I could take to OTT directly, okay? And the reason is because we had spent some money on it, and we didn't want to do P&A because that's another kharcha. So it's best to take it to OTT. Also, it's a film which will resonate well with their audience. They made me do an OTT theatrical release. So they are following a hybrid model in which both my films, Three of Us and All India Rank, I had to take them to theater, spend money there, and then bring them back to OTT.
Same with E-Balu, I did.
So we've lost that opportunity.
They'll hear it. I'm sure it's being recorded. Yeah.
No, so I'm just saying it's sad that, what we could look as an opportunity for revenue monetization ends up me spending more money so that it goes on OTT.
Did you make a loss on both those films?
I did.
Oh, wow.
No, so I'll take Sarita's point forward. 2016, when Netflix came in, I had directed a film called The Violent Player, which went into Netflix and was there for 5 years. We were paid a whopping sum of money. Okay. Cut to 2024. Now when we approach, and as Sarita rightly said, the first thing OTTs will tell us is that go theatrically release your film. So one of the reasons why we decided to go ahead and release Manik Babu Megh was that I don't even want to get into any conversation on this. I will release it. And I think I also try to understand where the OTT is coming from. Is that, are we kind of taking care of the publicity and everything on their behalf? So they will possibly not have to spend money on popularizing this unheard of title. But is there a market for this? Now with Manik Babu Megh, thankfully over these 104 days, we have started getting calls from OTTs saying that, will you be open to have a discussion? I said, well, now the ball is in my court. So, and this is a lovely space to be in. So, yeah, let's see. I think, but I would love to be not an exception to the rule. If we can keep releasing films and then go back to OTTs and tell them that this is what we have done. My other problem with OTTs have always been that they are far removed from the festival reality. नहीं लेके जाएंगे, film festival में release कर नहीं देंगे.
That's the difference. That's in India. While abroad, if you see, they are the ones championing it. They got into Cannes. They are fighting every film for Oscars. But in India, it's, I don't know how it works.
Take me through this. Is this OTT party over, basically? I mean, there was an alternate
It depends on them.
medium.
Actually, right now they are at a stage, like this, my personal opinion is, they are at a stage where they'll have to think what do they want to do. Because in my life, I've seen at least twice or thrice this cycle where when multiplexes came in and it was said now smaller films will get a window. That's how it all started. It lasted for about 3 years. I have worked in 2 of the major companies, PVR and Inox both. And we would play these smaller films and then that went down. And suddenly it was all the same. Smaller films were getting, struggling to come out. It was the same as Buddy said, around 2016, first 2-3 years, they'll pick up every good film or smaller film rather and put it out. And now it's gone back to the same thing where, you have to have a big star or the film has to release in theaters and then. So I think it's depending on them. Where do they want to go from here? On the other side, though it's a very small example, but movie is gaining traction. In fact, FA has gone and probably he's taken a couple of cinemas in London, physical cinema.
But Ranjan, how much does movie pay?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's a very small example.
Nothing. It's peanuts. Peanuts bhi nahi hai yaar.
No, sir, revenue is a different thing. I'm right now saying culture building. His question was about OTT. So I'm saying that so the bigger players have to decide where do they want to stand. See, abroad they have a very different strategy. I was at Phantom when Sacred Games was okayed, and it was done in LA, not because they didn't have an India office. So things have changed after they've opened an office here and how they're working. So really the answer is with them. Where do they want to go and what do they want to, how bigger a part? See, from a producer's perspective, coming to the revenue part, OTT has made probably a slight difference because they have replaced satellite. Because the satellite prices have almost gone zero, right? And OTT does pay a slightly more premium on that. However, the traditional, I still feel like if we keep releasing the films, and which I see in the last 6 months or where most of people, at least in Bombay, I know that they are now, trying to go back to the traditional, where they are making films and people are slightly shying away from trying to make these long form shows where, all the IP goes to the platform and everything. People want to make films, go back and release them in theaters. And probably like Buddy said, like wait for them, then let them come. But yeah, you need a solid partner for that. So it's a very, I'll say, interesting time where they also need to decide, and probably the producers also need to now decide how much of dependence they want to have on OTT.
Right. This is obviously a question posed to the OTT industry that we have absolutely no representative of right here. But we have obviously representation from various parts of filmmaking world and or aspirants, as it were. This is a great time to ask questions. I think we'll take a few questions and actually there are lots of hands raised.
Hi sir, I'm Siddharth, I'm a filmmaker, and I think I represent most of the audience here when we ask all of you the question that what is the criteria that you guys look for while deciding to distribute a film? Because for instance, you look at the last 5 years of Cannes Film Festival winners. Sure, Parasite came to India because it got nominated at the Oscars. The film in the year right after that, which I think was Titan, it didn't come. The year after that, Triangle of Sadness also didn't come. So the thing is, do filmmakers need that specific recognition from a festival to generate a word of mouth, or are we solely assessed on the quality of the film?
See, I can speak for myself and the company I represent. For us, it's understanding, can we do this or not, and can we find this audience or not. Most of the films that I've put out are only been Telugu films or Tamil films, but this is the first time All We Imagine has come, and also happened because the narrative is in Malayalam, and that's an industry that we understand. Most often, it's not about the distributor wanting to bring it. Sometimes the film also doesn't want to land up with the types of deals that are available. But I'm just hoping this can further continue and get better.
Hi, sorry, it's a question for everyone actually. So I am a documentary filmmaker. I make unscripted shows, and it's been impossible to ever find any funding in India. So my last show, I looked around for funding here. Everybody said same thing, big star, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, I don't want to. So I went to LA, I found the funding. It's on all the OTTs. Now I'm making a documentary about India, yet again. And even 15 lakhs, like for example, I need a bridge funding to find. Like the amount of begging I had to do and like rejections. I'm like, you guys spend 15 lakhs on an influencer's costume. Like you don't want to fund your Indian story. And this was already, by the way, it got like selected at Cannes and stuff like that. And again, I got so fed up. I'm like, okay, forget it. Let's just go to Ridley Scott. Because that's where they'll even look at Indian stories. Here, we don't even want to look at it. I mean, I don't even understand where in India do you find funding? You're all sitting here. Where do you go? Like as a filmmaker, where? I've spent my own money so far. I'm like, I swear, I've spent my own money. Where the hell do you get funding?
Okay, sorry, Rana.
So you're sitting in Bombay, but if you go to any other industry in this country, all monies are borrowed from bank, selling land, and even till today, we are a company that's 60 years old in the movies, and till today it is borrowed money from a bank with interest. So India will not get you grants. You cannot be fed up. You have to strive. If you see the struggle in art house, it is very minuscule compared to what in mainstream cinema happens. If this is about commercial cinema, there will be 10x the number of people sitting here who would have struggled for longer and longer periods of time.
But tell me, how is this some random influencer going to Cannes?
Because there is a brand that makes a costume. That costume is sold. That costume
It's a
has
brand event.
a margin which is profitable.
Sorry, I'm quite angry,
Well,
but
yeah.
No,
well,
that's-
if you want to be in the commercial world, you have to talk commerce. It's not going to be easy.
there is across the world.
You have to go back to that same person then. You see, ma'am. One is
Yeah, that's
you
the
have
question.
to
See-
you have to understand that India has first over 70 crore people who make less than 100 rupees a day. So first, it does not matter to them what stories we are trying to tell because that's their life. All We Imagine is like the film that we just have, has picked a 10x version in France, and I don't even think it will do that much in India. It's hard. It's not easy. This is not an easy place to be. It is going to be a tough place. It will get tougher and tougher. But please continue.
No, I think
It's
self-funded filmmakers, we make advertising films, and we are generally good at that. We make a lot of money. We make money
us do
and
the same.
spend those money.
All of us do the same.
Correct.
I act to make these films. Same. It's the same. Find another gig.
just think about how much work does, and I'm preposterous to say, but even SRK takes a back end. So you have to make films, you have to do all the struggle. Like we've just...
like this.
Same.
This is kurta pajama, nobody will give me money anyway.
That's a bias.
Okay, this is
Like this is
next
film.
question.
My director is here. I'll just take a minute. We've just finished Little Thomas. The director is, in fact, we were trying to make this film for 5 years. We started by him putting in some money of his own. And that's how we were able to raise the remaining 70% of the money. And thankfully, we have the other studio also here, Civic, they are representative. So you find people, but you have to be. There are films you would have read stories. It takes 7 years. It's the same, like Rana said, it's double or 10x the amount for a commercial film, by the way, to raise that money. So,
Firstly, I want to thank all of you. It's been really interesting. I just want to ask a very simple question. So from the beginning of this panel, we've spoken about art house films and we've spoken about mainstream films. And this city, I mean, I know there's a lot of problems in this city, guys, but I'm an actor-writer, and there are crazy things that happen. But recently I went for a re-screening of Satyajit Ray's Mahanagar. And I'm telling you, there were people sitting there. I didn't expect to be sitting there and watching that film. And I've grown up watching Satyajit Ray films, and it was really, really inspiring. So what I'm trying to ask is the problem with the fact that we are actually distinguishing the films into art house and mainstream? If not, then like, what's the solution? Are we saying that mainstream audience will not come and watch art house films? Because I am someone who's watched Bahubali. I watched Bahubali thrice, and I still go and watch art house films because those films make me think, you know. So I watch both. So, like, yeah.
Well, to be fair, Satyajit Ray made commercially successful cinema in Bengal. He was not an art house filmmaker by any means. Anyone wants to take this? The distinction between, which is what we started with.
It's weird, actually. It's a good question you've asked, because I don't know if we have another way of distinguishing this. Yes, there'll be a slim audience that will watch both cinema, but the audience for something that is genre-led or what we call art house in that matter is much smaller. But the real problem I've seen over time, the last few films that I've put out, is both have the same road to take. That's the problem. You can't put them on the same road as a big commercial film in that sense. We just have to find alternative routes. And like I said, I think festival is a certain route. You have to find places where people know about that cinema even before it gets out there. Like in this commercial world, it's just very easily understood that this film is releasing on Diwali. Everyone knows Bhool Bhulaiyaa is coming or X is coming, right? But how do you get your voice out there? I think that's really what we're all figuring out right now at this point.
I'll add to that. You know, it's just not it's not a producer issue. There's a part of the game, like I was telling Mayank before, that exhibitors need to play. Like Masan, by the way, released between Bahubali 2 and Bajrangi. We had put it purposely there. And I'll tell you very interesting why. Because I come from theatres. We knew that Bahubali will have a lot of people. I need 1%. My audience is a subset of the Bahubali audience. So my marketing money goes down because all I need to do is put a great standee in the theatres. I've run theatres. You know, most of audiences which come to theatres are the same audiences. People who watch movies, people who don't watch movies in theatres. It's a very clear thing. Of course, some bit of this come when there's a big event film, Amir Khan films, what we used to call them as the bomb audience. Jab tak bomb nahi phata hai, tab tak nahi aayega. Right? So, what do you do? How do you market these films? There are very, very interesting things. So, the distinction bit, at least in our minds, it's not there. But we need to find that one USP, like he just said, Anirban, you know, he got him, did that video, it clicked, right? So it could be an award somebody has won there. Like Newton, very interestingly, I think is the only film in India which released on the morning it was announced it's India's Oscar entry. And from 12 o'clock it released in theatres and went on to do 20 crores. Now, could we work on that? Yes, there is a big part of the questions that she was asking is if we can go and talk to them, find some ways, like what he was also saying. Hallyu started in 1995 in Korea. You invest in a Memories of Murder, that's how a Parasite after 15 years goes and wins an Oscar. But there are things beyond us. What do? We keep fighting, we keep doing the same thing. So the distinction, I think, is probably in the audience mind. From this side, I don't think it's there. They have to be released, find a way, put them out there. It could be single screen, it could be theatres, it could be multiplexes, it could be paid previews, it could straight go to OTT, find a way. And people have been doing over the years. So,
I mean, Hallyu is a pretty good example of a lesser told story of how East Asia, you know, the economic crisis happened. There is a head of state who feels that the way Korea is being looked at needs to be changed. So instead of anything else, he invested in soft power or pop culture, as it were. In India, on the other hand, we have NFDC that stopped making movies. Some of the greatest directors in India made their debut with NFDC film. Do you think that's something that can be addressed? Of course, there is no person from the government here. I hope not. But is that something that, as independent filmmakers, you sort of feel the loss of NFDC, for instance?
I think not only NFDC, I think a lot of state governments. A lot of state governments across the years have funded films. Since I come from Bengal, the West Bengal Film Development Corporation, WBFDC, used to fund so many of Satyajit Ray's later years films. They stopped. So it's a pity that governments do not support films anymore. I think it's just
In fact,
a pity.
Pathir Panchali, one of the funding is West Bengal Road
The road
Development
Correct.
Corporation.
That's a different story. That's
Yeah.
that's a wonderful story.
Okay, last two questions, please.
Hi, I had a question specifically about budgets. Like overseas, there's a lot of conversation about having marketing now in production budgets. Is that something that you would recommend producers to, because that makes it easier later on when you go to distributors? And secondly, can you touch upon sales agents, because we're talking about festival to box office. So like they are the intermediary between being, going to the distributor often. So I guess, who are some of the folks you work with, and what should young producers keep in mind as they approach sales agents and then distributors?
I'll quickly take this and then all of you come in. So I have worked with 2 sales agents for 2 of my films. One was The Violin Player, well, Alpha Violet of France. They came in, that was their first pick from India. They were amazing. I have had horror stories about sales agents, that money is generally you would never be able to see the face of money, as they say. Yeah, so, but Alpha Violet was outstanding. They sold the film to Netflix in LA. That's the reason why we got a lot of money, actually. But I have worked on Manik Babu Megh with Outsider Pictures in LA. So they are the ones who released the films in San Francisco and Chicago. I think that the only way we could have released the film. Otherwise, on our own steam, not possible. We need a sales agent, for sure. If you have overseas ambition, so you need a sales agent. And sales agents also work very well when taking the film to different programmers across the globe. You might not know a programmer, you might not know a festival. I think that's where sales agents really, really help.
Yeah, okay. So I kind of want to understand the commerce side of it a bit more. So my question is to you, Sarita ma'am. In the West, A24 has sort of tried to do this thing where it is a studio that does festival hit to box office, and that's what we are talking about. They make quote-unquote smaller budget films, but they, since have a distribution background, they're able to make a lot more return. What kind of problems can a company with a business model like A24 face in India? And how have we not been able to crack something like that?
One language is the problem that we have, and they don't. All their films will be mostly in English, and English subtitles will be read. But here, we have many languages, many countries. It's very hard to move from there on. That's challenge one, and then Sarita boss will tell the rest.
No, I'm just saying that monetization is an issue, and studios have to pull themselves up and look at keeping some money for these kind of films, independent sort of films. Because in Viacom, I remember that we started this initiative called Cine Shorts, which was short films, and people from all over India, all over the world could apply, and they would shoot the film themselves, but we had some kind of prize which they would get, and that would cover their costs. And they did it over 3-4 years, but it's fizzled out. So I'm saying that every studio must take that little bit of responsibility to do and keep some money aside for films like these, because otherwise they are always doing commercial films in which they are making money. So they should keep some money aside for films like this.
Sorry, can I quickly ask a follow-up question to the same question?
Yes.
It's to your answer, sir. I've been thinking about this one language problem for quite a bit, and I feel like we constantly keep comparing all our distribution models to the West. We'll never be able to emulate that in a country like India. What I've been thinking, though, that I personally seem to believe, this extremely uninformed opinion could be, that there are pockets of India, especially in regional cinema, whether it's Kerala or Bengal or Maharashtra or Gujarat, that I personally feel are extremely underserved audiences who have historically had a certain sensibility for a different kind of cinema. Like, for example, if you see the theatrical releases of this year, which film will I recommend my mother to go and watch and enjoy? She's a Maharashtrian woman who has also seen Ray and who's also loves Malayalam cinema. And I personally believe now that the commercial cinema has made us okay with watching dubbed films. Can we not create a certain sense of cross-pollination within regional cinema? Because dubbing, I would imagine, is relatively cheaper. in terms of just distribution. So I would love to like send my mother to a Bengali film which is dubbed in Marathi, and I also see a opportunity of creating a little different buzz over there. So cast the highest stars of Marathi to come go dub a Bengali film, and then you have this person's voice and that person's voice as a marketing strategy. Would that work in indie is my question.
Like
What-
earlier in the panel, someone said each film has its own journey. So you don't know if that works or not. Now there's this film that I have that's about Malayali nurses in Bombay. The fact that they don't speak the language is the story. Now what do I dub it in? How do I dub this? If I dub it in all Malayalam, then everyone's speaking Malayalam, you don't understand the problem. So I think each film will take its journey. Since it's the closing, I just have to tell you something that happened recently. Like, it's a filmmaker that I met that broke all myths of cinema that I thought or how cinema should be made. So I'll tell you who the filmmaker is. He made a film called Sarkari, which is a Kannada film. He lives in a town called Kundapur, and they just kept making films there. All his life he was there. He just made movies. People in the village funded him. Friends from other states kind of made together. Some films worked, some films didn't. And they went to Bangalore, assuming that that's where you make mainstream stuff. They couldn't handle Bangalore as a city. They thought things were too expensive, or the stories that they had to tell weren't connecting. So they went back to the village and continued making films again. And him and I don't even speak the same language, because he's a Kannada filmmaker, I'm Telugu, so he doesn't speak English enough. I don't speak Kannada either. We both spoke broken Tamil and figured out life from there on. And that filmmaker is called Rishabh Shetty. He made Kantara from that same village. And the whole country saw it, it collected 500 crores. I'm saying, so to me, the whole fact of somebody has to come to a city to make a film, that myth also got busted. And I think everything is changing so dramatically. And the kind of stories they have, the kind of people that, like the entire village is now filmmakers. There was a resort owner in that village who built 2 floors for them saying, "Wah, Kantara came out of here." So there'll be some very beautiful things that will happen, I think, in the next round. And I think this will become the future of India, where you start making local stories from local spaces. I'm sure all of you also have come from various places to Bombay. I think that's going to change pretty dramatically. You might not have to be in a big city. You might not have to go to a big distributor. If content is right, it'll reach the right people.
Also, just to add on the dubbing bit, you know Bauddhayan, which is released on Friday, it has an AI-powered dubbing where Bachchan Saab can speak in Telugu and other languages. So it's very soon, it's just round the corner. Your dubbing will be in the actor's voice. So probably the authenticity will be taken care of and the filmmaker might be happy. And this was happening for 4 years. We were trying to do also in Bangalore with 2 kids who came up with this. So things are changing every day. Like I said, 2 years later, we will probably be sitting discussing new problems. The point is, make the film, take it out, you'll find a way, put it out there. So,
You know, usually all these sessions tend to be extremely like a bharas session, and that everyone needs a counselor really more than a panelist. But this has turned out to be an extremely positive one. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for all our panelists. This was a lovely session. Thank you.